These 10 reggae songs were so controversial, they were banned from the airwaves. I'm exposing the forbidden track that got artists arrested. The final song on this list sparked riots and was locked away for decades. You have to stick around until the end to hear the truth. They tried to silence forever. Junior Movin's Police and Thieves did not whisper its message. It shouted it in a trembling falsetto that sliced through the humid air of Kingston in 1977. The country was a tinderbox of political violence, neighborhoods torn fire weapons, and communities crushed under the weight of fear. When Junior Movin sang of police and thieves in the street, scaring the nation with their fire weapons and ammunition, it was more than a lyric. It was an indictment, a raw mirror reflecting the chaos outside people's doors. The uncomfortable truth of his words left politicians uneasy, and yet ordinary Jamaicans felt as if someone had finally set their pain to melody. The lines between enforcers and criminals blurred so much that listeners were forced to ask who truly kept order and who spread terror. Covered years later by The Clash in Britain, the song gained international recognition, but in its own moment, it was not celebrated. It was feared, attacked, and almost silenced. Max Romeo's Wet Dream may sound almost playful to modern ears, but in the early 70s it detonated like Scandal on a Record. With its lilt and slide double meanings, the song seemed at first like harmless fun, yet the conservative moral guardians of the time clutched their pearls in horror. Romeo, with a grin in his delivery, made it clear that he was not retreating from taboo subjects. He crooned of intimacy in a way that might be coy, but in a society where propriety was guarded like treasure, it was seen as nothing short of obscene. The British Broadcasting Corporation banned it outright. Jamaican stations hesitated to spin it, and yet the public could not get enough. The ban became free publicity, propelling into every dance hall and party. What was meant to be suppressed turned into an anthem of rebellion against prudish control, a reminder that reggae was not just about politics, but also about the body, the spirit, and the refusal to bow to censorship. Burning Spear's Slavery Days tore open wounds that many would rather have stitched shut. Winston Rodney, better known as Burning Spear, repeated the haunting question, "Do you remember the days of slavery?" Not once, but again and again, until the listener could not escape the weight of history pressing down. At a time when Jamaica was struggling with its post-independence identity, and when some leaders preferred to look forward rather than backward, this song insisted that the past could not be erased. It was too raw, too painful, too soaked in blood and chains to be ignored. Some listeners embraced a reminder as a form of ancestral respect, while others found it too harsh, too unrelenting. But that was the power of Burning Spear. He refused to let the memory of suffering slip into silence. His chanting voice became a vessel of remembrance, making Slavery Days not just a song, but ritual of history, one that rattled governments and unsettled those who profited from forgetting. Horace Andy, with his fragile yet piercing tone, offered a lament that felt almost biblical in its mourning when he recorded Problems. Released in 1977, the track did not veil itself in allegory. It sang bluntly of the suffering of ordinary Jamaicans, of poverty gnawing at families, of hunger and desperation that politicians pretended not to see. Horace Andy did not sing with anger. He sang with sorrow, and that sorrow was perhaps even more dangerous. It forced people to confront the decay of their society without the shield of metaphor. The powers that we saw the track as criticism, a rebuke that spread through sound systems and street corners. Every line was a reminder that those at the bottom were not invisible, that their cries were being sung into existence. For those who suffered, Problems was a balm of validation for those in control. It was a thorn in the side that could not be easily pulled out. Toots Hibbert and his band, the Maytals, brought a different energy with Pressure Drop, a track that seemed less political on the surface, yet carried a menace that listeners could not ignore. Released in 1970, it became a haunting prophecy of karmic justice. When Hibbert sang of the pressure dropping, his gravelly voice imbued the words with a sense of inevitability, as though unseen forces were about to level the scales. For Jamaicans living under the constant fear of violence, corruption, and betrayal, the song's cryptic warning felt close to reality. It was not a manifesto. It was a curse disguised as a chorus. And that subtle threat, that suggestion that wrongdoers would meet their comeuppance, unsettled the powerful. The track's infectious rhythm made it irresistible, but its undertone of retribution gave it the edge of danger. Even as crowds danced, many knew that the song carried more than just music. It carried judgment. Peter Tosh was never one to veil his convictions, and Legalize It became his battle cry. Released in 1976, it was not simply a call for the acceptance of the herb. It was a demand of the recognition of Rastafarian spiritual rights and the end of hypocrisy in law. Tosh, tall and uncompromising, did not mince words. He sang of the herb as a healing plant, a sacred tool, and he did so at a time when laws across the globe treated it as contraband worthy of prison. The establishment saw in his lyrics open rebellion, a direct defiance of state authority. Radio stations banned it, police maltreated him, and yet Tosh refused to yield. The song's refrain echoed in every gathering of the marginalized and the faithful, turning it into a banner under which the oppressed rallied. The controversy did not destroy him, it defined him. Legalize It burned his name into history as the man who dared to shout the unspoken in the face of the world's disapproval. Dennis Brown, the crown prince of reggae, revealed his sharp edge in Wolves and Leopards. Behind his velvet voice lurked a ferocious warning. He sang of predators conspiring against the sheep, and though he never named them outright, listeners knew the allegory was not accidental. In a Jamaica split by political tribalism, where supporters of rival parties clashed violently, metaphors like these were interpreted as commentary on real leaders, real gangs, real betrayal. The beauty of Brown's tone softened nothing. It only highlighted the horror of what he implied. Critics accused him of inciting unrest, while others swore he had simply put the truth into song. To his fans, it was bravery cloaked in melody. To the elite, it was provocation. For audiences in 1972, this was not simply a cover. It was proof that reggae could converse with the world, could translate universal emotions into its own language. The chosen few embodied reggae's ability to expand outward without losing itself, to stretch across borders while remaining rooted. Their work did not rise to mainstream superstardom, but enriched reggae's dialogue with global music, bridging Kingston and Detroit, Trenchtown and Memphis. In the Rain may not be remembered as a pinnacle of reggae innovation, but it holds the honor showing that reggae could absorb, reimagine, and release something entirely its own. Winston Francis followed with Blue Moon, a song that many already knew, but few expected to hear remade as a reggae standard. In Francis's hands, it became something tender and soothing, a romantic pause in the rapid evolution of the genre. His voice was gentle, almost crooning, and it flowed across the rhythm with effortless grace. While others sought to push reggae into political urgency or fiery rebellion, Francis dared to slow things down, to let romance and nostalgia speak for themselves. His choice to reimagine Blue Moon was bold in its simplicity, declaring that reggae could mold itself to any form, that its heartbeat could carry not only resistance but also the timeless ache of love. In 1972, it was a soft defiance against expectations, a refusal to be boxed into a single identity. Though overlooked, Blue Moon is a reminder that reggae was never monolithic. It was as versatile as the lives it reflected, capable of holding both revolution and tenderness in the same breath. The Gay Lads offered something different, something rooted in memory. Their track Little Schoolgirl carried the echoes of ska and rocksteady, blending the old with the new in a way that felt like looking both forward and backward at once. By 1972, they were veterans, seasoned voices that had witnessed reggae's birth from earlier genres. Little Schoolgirl was not a groundbreaking anthem, but was an affectionate nod to their craft, to the sweetness of melody and harmony that had always defined them. While the younger generation pushed reggae into fresh territories, the Gay Lads held on to the discipline of harmonization, the art of voices moving as one. Their contribution reminds us that reggae's power was never only in its innovation, but also in its continuity, its threads stretching across decades of Jamaican sound. Little Schoolgirl may be overlooked, but it stands as proof that memory itself is music, and that sometimes the past is worth singing just as loudly as the present. And then the fire returned, burning hot with Junior Biles' Beat Down Babylon. If reggae was ever accused of being just entertainment, this song was a counter-argument, a searing hymn of defiance that could never be mistaken for frivolity. Biles sang with urgency, his voice carrying the pain of a people and the weight of centuries. The bass line pounded like war drums, the rhythm relentless, the lyrics uncompromising. In 1972, it was not designed for dance halls. It was designed for awakening. The song encapsulated reggae's role as protest, as scripture, as shield against oppression. Though Biles never reached the international fame of Marley or Burning Spear, his voice on this track belongs in the same pantheon, carrying the same authority, the same inevitability. Beat Down Babylon may not have climbed charts, but it climbed into the hearts of those who knew reggae was never just music. It was resistance, it was survival, it was prophecy. Closing the circle is Dennis Brown, the young prodigy whose voice in Easy Take It Easy felt impossibly mature for his years. At the time, he was barely more than a boy, yet his delivery carried the weight of a man who had already lived lifetimes. The song was gentle, soulful, and unhurried, a masterclass in restraint. Where others pushed with force, Dennis Brown simply sang, and it was enough to silence rooms. This early track did not make him a household name in 1972, but it forecast everything to come: the crown, the adoration, the legacy as reggae's crown prince. To end with Dennis Brown is to end with beginning, with the image of a young singer standing at the edge of greatness, not yet aware of how far his voice would travel. Easy Take It Easy reminds us that every legend starts small, every giant once whispered before they roared. These 10 songs from 1972, shuffled out of order yet bound together by time, are more than curiosities. They are fragments of a living mosaic, pieces of the genre still discovering itself, still shaping its own identity. Some were whispers, some were storms, some were intimate confessions, others defiant sermons. None dominated the charts, but all carried the pulse of Jamaica's heartbeat. To listen now is to step back into that moment when reggae was restless, unpredictable, and infinitely alive. These forgotten one-hit wonders are not footnotes. They are the secret spine of the story, the echoes that remind us the genre was never just about the names we remember, but also about the voices we nearly lost. Which of these forgotten voices speaks loudest to you? Which track do you believe deserved a second life in Reggae Spotlight? Share your thoughts in the comments and keep this conversation alive. And if you want more hidden stories, more buried gems, then make sure you subscribe right now so you never miss what comes next.